Someone asked me a question last week. Jeff, I have $800,000 saved. Can I retire? And my answer surprised them. Because the real question isn't how much you have. It's whether you have a plan to turn what you have into actual income. And that's a completely different question to ask. After 30 years of being in this business, I've seen people retire comfortably on less than you'd expect. And I've seen people with way more money than they needed who still couldn't pull the trigger. Today I'm going to clear this up for you once and for all. Now, I'm Jeff Kickle, the stress-free retirement guy. And my whole mission here is to cut through the noise and give you retirement clarity. Because most of what's out there is either trying to scare you into buying something or oversimplifying a decision that deserves real attention. In my book, The Retirement Income Equation, I built a framework that I've refined over the last 30 years. And today I want to give you the core of the framework right here and for free. Now, the myth first, I want to get you out of this mindset that I feel is a major problem in our industry. Now, I said this in the book and I've gotten flack from it from my industry because the reality is the people who train us in the financial planning industry typically are the large financial firms. So the brokerage firms, the mutual fund firms, the insurance companies. And what is the primary goal of any of those large firms is to acquire assets. That's how they make money. The more assets they have, the more money they make. So thus, what do they train us on? They train us on how to generate more assets or how to bring in more assets. For most of my career, for a large amount of my career, that was my whole focus, was on how can I gain and grow and build more assets? How do I build that? Because that builds my business. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying that people in our industry are nefarious because they're trying to do that. That's what they're trained to do. And as a result of that, most of the training that we receive is around the number. That became the big thing years ago. Why is it $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? What is the target? The financial media loves the big, scary number. You need $2 million to retire. But that ignores your specific situation. A couple in rural Texas with a paid-off home has a completely different reality than someone who lives in Manhattan. Now, the right question is, what monthly income do you need to live the life you want in retirement? Start with your lifestyle, not someone else's benchmark. The second is what I call the retirement income equation. It's just a simple framework. It is guaranteed income, or what my friend Tom Hegna calls paychecks, plus predictable income, predictable/flexible income, and that's what Tom calls playchecks. So you have your paychecks plus your playchecks plus growth. So if you think of 3 different goals within your overall retirement umbrella, you're going to have a stress-free retirement. It's just plain and simple. You're not going to stress over money because you're going to know where your income is coming from, and there's no need to sit there and stare at the markets and worry about what's going on in the world. As I'm filming this right now, we're in the middle of conflict with Iran, and the markets are freaking out and going over all kinds of ups and downs and all that. Imagine not having to worry about that. Imagine flipping off the news and reading a book of poetry or a novel that you've been wanting to, and not having to worry about where your income is coming from. Now, when we think of the guaranteed income sources that you have, those are things like Social Security, pensions, and annuity income. Now, I know that's a big, scary word, and we'll talk a lot about that in this later as we go through some of this, but annuity income, pensions, and Social Security are exactly the same thing. Social Security, guess what? They've taken it out of your paycheck every single week or every single 2 weeks or every single month for your entire working career. And you have put money in and your boss has put money in to a system where money went into there, that's built up, and then the trade for that money is you get a monthly check when you reach retirement age. Pensions, same exact thing. Usually the company is the one that's contributing to those. They're putting money away for you, and then that turns into an income stream. So what is an annuity? It's the same thing. You take a portion of your dollars, you put it into an annuity, an insurance contract, and the insurance company agrees to pay you for as long as you live. And in some cases, you can put a guarantee period on there that it can last beyond the time of your death, maybe for your spouse or a family member or something. Now, the general rule when you think about income is what's called the 4% rule. Now, people will argue that point today that it's maybe 3%. Some people will say 5%, but we're just going to use the 4% rule. So that means for every $1 million that you have of assets, that can turn into $40,000 a year of income. Okay? So that's what you want to be thinking about, is that $1 million is going to generate $40,000 for you, adjusted for inflation over time going up. Now, the goal is you need to close the gap between your guaranteed income and what you actually need to live on, your paychecks and your playchecks. So in the book, Retirement Income Equation, I walk you through all of that. And also on this channel, I have a course on this for free. I put it out there. I walk you through exactly how to build your retirement income equation for yourself, or what I call your stress-free retirement blueprint. Now let's talk a little bit about the time periods in your life, because it's not going to be that you're going to go into retirement and every year is going to be exactly the same. So you're going to have 3 distinct periods in your retirement, and it's what a lot of financial planners have begun to call the retirement smile. And what does that mean? So you have your go-go years, and typically that's going to be your 60s through to your mid 70s. Those are your go-go years. Your health is good. You typically have money to spend at that time period. You're not working anymore, or you've reduced your work significantly, and you're doing all those big, expensive things that you wanted to do. You're doing the travel, the renovations, you're hanging out with your grandkids. And then you start to slow down a little bit. You reach your what's called your slow-go years. Let's call that 75 to 85. Those are your years where you've done a lot of the things that you wanted to do. You've done the travel. You've done the renovations on the house. You're getting to that point where it's not as much fun jumping on an airplane for 10 hours. You want to do shorter trips and things like that. You maybe do a lot more cruises at that point. I saw this with my parents. They did a lot of those long trips early in retirement, and then they started looking at, hey, it was much more fun going on a cruise where you just dumped your luggage at the harbor. They got it up to your room, you packed, you unpacked, and then you didn't have to do anything. The ship took you to where you wanted to go, and they enjoyed that for that next kind of 10 years spot. Then you reach your mid 80s and you're in your no-goes reality. Your health may not be as good. You don't want to sit on an airplane as long. You've done a lot of the things that you wanted to in life. The good news is most retirement calculators are going to use what they call linear spending. So they're going to say, okay, your expenses are going to go up over time significantly with inflation. That's linear spending. But that's not really how life works. You typically will spend more early on, then you'll spend a little bit less in those slow-go years, and you'll spend less in the no-go years. You may spend a little bit more on healthcare and things like that, but you're not going to spend as much on those things that you can control. And that's actually the good news. The number you need is probably a lot lower than the straight line calculators will show. So you can control 4 income levers. First off, when you claim Social Security, this is that kind of coffee shop, what I call the coffee shop effect. You've got all your friends at the coffee shop and you go in there and you ask them, hey, when should I claim Social Security? And you're going to get 4 different answers from 4 different people. Some are going to tell you, you've got to claim it at 62 because if you don't, it's just going to be gone. It's just going away because they said that it's going to be by 2035, it's going to be bankrupt and they're not going to be able to do. Okay, so that's totally wrong. And you'll have other people say, just take it right around the time of your full retirement age. And other people will tell you, well, wait, take it as long or as late as you possibly can. The answer is, you've really got to kind of make sure that works for you. Let's say you have deathly illness and it doesn't look like you're going to last past 65 or 67. You might take it early at that point. But realize that every single year that you take Social Security prior to your full retirement age, which for most of us is going to be between 66 and 67, every year you take it early, you lose 8%. So you could lose up to 32% of your Social Security check, which lasts for the rest of your life. It does index up for inflation, but if you take it too early, you're starting from a very low point and going up. And especially if you have a spouse, like mine is 4 years younger than me, I've always made a little bit more money than she did. And 2, I'm older. So I want to take mine a little bit later so that I can lock in that larger check for her when I'm gone. Now, she says she's going first, but I'm committed to go first in that case. You also have a lever of possibly doing Roth conversions before age 72 to reduce your future tax burdens. This is something smart to do, and I have a lot of clients that we're doing this right now. We're doing it as they're rolling out of the 50s into the 60s. We're starting to do every year Roth conversions. So we're starting to convert that money that they've saved for many years. They're paying taxes on it, but the advantage of that is when they reach their retirement age, now all their money is converted and it's tax-free. And so if I take out 2 different dollar amounts, if I'm trying to net, let's say $10,000 a month, in a Roth, I can just take out $10,000 a month. In a traditional IRA or a 401k, I'm going to have to take out closer to $13,000 to $14,000, depending on my other income, just to be able to net that 10. So I can make a retirement portfolio last longer by making sure that I control my taxes and keep them as low as possible. Now, your spending plan, even shaving $500 to $500 a month, is worth almost $150,000 of money you don't need. So one of the things you can look at is, how can I remove my home cost? So if you're carrying a mortgage into retirement, and I can't tell you how many people that I've had that suddenly they've lived in a house for 30 years, and then all of a sudden when they retire, they decide, oh, I want this bigger house that has a mortgage. And now they've got a $2,500 mortgage, which means that they're going to have almost $700,000 of assets that are completely dedicated just to paying a mortgage. So if you can eliminate your mortgage prior to retirement, and there's lots of ways to do it, everything from paying it down to doing things like a reverse mortgage where it eliminates the mortgage payment that you have. It just stops your mortgage payment. You still get to live in the house. You get to stay there as long as you want, and your spouse gets to stay there as long as you want, but you get rid of that mortgage payment. Now, all of a sudden, that frees up $700,000 that you can switch and turn into maybe a $2,500 income that is coming in. You can also, in your go-go years, work part-time. Oh, I know this is horrible, but if you hate your job now, maybe there's something you can do where you can work part-time. Even $1,000 a month, That's getting close to about $600,000, just $1,000 a month. That's about $500,000 that you wouldn't have to dedicate to that income just by working a part-time job. That can extend your portfolio much longer. So here's the stress-free bottom line. You probably need less than you think if you have a real income plan. The people who struggle aren't the ones with small portfolios. They're the ones that just don't even have a plan in general. A plan gives you permission to actually spend what you've saved. Now, here's the honest truth. I've sat across from people with 7-figure portfolios who couldn't sleep at night because they had no income plan. And I've sat across from people with far more modest savings who retired with confidence because they had a clear picture of where every dollar was coming from. Now, the plan is the difference. If you want to go deeper on this, I wrote a whole book about it, The Retirement Income Equation. It's available on Amazon. There's a link in the summary of this page or in the show notes. Not saying you have to buy the book. I'm just saying that the book is out there and it has my whole plan. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because next week we're going to talk about 5 signs you're already ready to retire. You might not even know it. So drop your questions in the comments. What part of retirement income picture is the most confusing to you right now? I want to hear.